Hi, at my family we love easy, and we also love carnitas. And so after having carnitas a couple of times at Mexican restaurants, I decided I need to figure out how to make them for myself. So it's really very simple, and you can use your crock pot to get started. Um, the last time I made this, my family ran around the house screaming, "Mom is the greatest cook alive." Well, actually, they didn't, but they wanted to. I could see it in their eyes. So I started with a huge pork shoulder, or they're also called Boston butts. And I cut it into pieces because it was very, very large. And you're gonna put this spice rub on the pork. And so to get the more exposure to the meat, I cut them into smaller pieces. And once I cut them into smaller pieces, I'm gonna rub them with a seasoning and put them in my crock pot. So to make the seasoning, I used 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 2 tablespoons of cumin, 2 tablespoons of oregano, and 1 tablespoon of garlic. So 1 tablespoon of garlic, 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 2 tablespoons of cumin, and 2 of oregano. And I just mixed it together in this little glass dish, and then I've been rubbing it into the meat. So here's one piece. When you put it into the crock pot, try to put it fat side up. Then the fat will drain down into those juices. I'm doing another piece, and basically I'm just shaking it over, and I'll rub it in. And of course I am getting it on my fingers, but I want to get it, really let it permeate that meat. And I'm going to put the fat cap up, and so I'll put it on its side, the side of its friend, and I'll keep going. Now, most pork butt shoulders have a bone in them, and this does as well. So you don't have to cut it, but if you decide to cut it, just cut around that bone the best you can. Don't try to cut the bone out, because the bone will give it some flavor as well. But you want to rub this in really, really well. And it smells amazing. I wish you could smell it. Between the cumin and the chili powder, it's just fantastic. So I'm going to get the seasonings over this, and as I finish this last, let me tell you what you're going to do with it. Once this is done, and I usually cook it on low, it's just fall apart tender, but once you get it done, you're going to shred it, and you're going to take the juices that are in the crock pot and you boil them down. So you'll pour them from the crock pot into a saucepan, and you'll boil it down, and it thickens up. And then you're going to take your carnitas, and it's going to have, that broth is going to have a wonderful fat from all this marbly fat that you see. So once you boil that down, you're going to take the carnitas, put them in a cast iron skillet or any kind of hot skillet that you prefer to use. Put them in there, and you're going to fry them up. Now, you won't get to see me do that part, but when I say fry, you put them in the skillet. You're going to have the lovely fat from the drippings. Put that in there, and when you pour the broth over it, when it's really hot and sizzling, you're going to pour the broth over it and brown it. And it's this wonderful caramelized, crispy bits that make carnitas so tasty. And I'm just getting the rub off my fingers now and getting it on this big juicy piece. Again, make sure you put the fat side up so the fat can run down into the meat. And this is a challenge for my crock pot, getting all this in here. So, notice I haven't put any liquid yet. I've put the various pieces of pork with all the seasonings. Now let me rinse my hands. Okay, so you've got the pork in there with all the wonderful seasonings, and then you take jalapeno. Now, use as much jalapeno as you like, and you can use fresh jalapenos. I keep these jarred jalapenos on hand, and so I prefer to use those simply because it's easy and I don't have to worry about seeding it, and I have this as a staple for if I need to make it. I'm going to put a little more, and again, just put as many as you like. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to stick this fork back in the jar, so I'll use the fork to spread these out, and you just spread the jalapeno pieces on top of the pork. Use as much or as few as you like, or you could skip it all together. You could add some of the jalapeno juice if you really like the taste of jalapenos. I don't like things too spicy, and using about this much last time, it was just on the edge of too spicy for me. So I've put those in there on top, and you'll be amazed at how much wonderful flavor the jalapenos give it. Again, use fresh if you prefer. I'm using jarred simply because I have that on hand, and it's just easy for me with doing this in the middle of the week. Okay, next I'm going to pour in the juice of an orange, and so I took a fresh orange and juiced it. The original recipe that I used called for the juice of 2 oranges. Well, oranges have a lot of natural sugar, so I didn't want to use that much sugar in my carnitas. But what's wonderful about the orange is that when you bring the pan drippings out and simmer them down to thicken them, that juice, is the sweetness, is what helps caramelize it once you put it into your cast iron skillet. The acid in the orange also helps to break down the meat and make it more tender. Now notice I poured it on the side and not over the meat because I don't want to knock off the wonderful juices, the wonderful rub that I have on there. Because I only used 1 orange and that this is a very large pork butt, I'm going to add some lime juice because lime in carnitas is wonderful. And I added probably a tablespoon or so of lime juice. And I'm also going to use some lemon juice. Again, just because I can and because I didn't use the oranges. And yes, there is still sugar in the oranges and the limes, but not as much as in an orange. So I'm simply going to juice that lemon. That was 1/2. I love this little gadget. I found it on Amazon clearance for $7 at Christmas, and it was a great gift to me. It catches the seeds, so you don't have to worry about it. And then I'll do another one, and I'm just going to juice it. And that's it. Once I get these lemons juiced, I have it in the crock pot, and I will put it on low for about 12 hours. So this is, and you don't have to do 12. This is just a really full crock pot. Now, notice I haven't put any more water or broth or anything else like that. I've simply put the juice of 1 orange, the juice of a lemon, and a tablespoon or so of lime juice. That's it. That's all I'm going to put in there. All the other drippings come from the meat itself and from the fat. As I said before, I'm going to bake this for at least 8 hours on slow. You can do 4 to 6 hours on high. I prefer slow. You can do it overnight if you want to. It's going to cool down. Shred the meat, cut it into smaller pieces, maybe bite-sized pieces. Warm up your cast iron skillet. Take your pan drippings, which you've simmered down to about half of the volume you started with. Once the pan's very, very hot, put some of the fat from the drippings into your pan. Put your pieces of carnita, heat it up till it starts to really, really brown. Pour another tablespoon or so of the juices of the pan drippings over the carnitas. Let it get really nice and brown and crispy, and your family will think you're an absolute genius. You can add sour cream, salsa, cheese, make it like a fajita, add chorizo to it for fajitas, bell pepper, onion that's been sauteed, and some of the liquid. There's so many things that you can do with it. Serve it with a low-carb tortilla if you'd like. Anyway, I hope that you enjoy these carnitas as much as my family does.